The slot machines don't lie. When you hear that particular silence, the kind that cuts through 2,000 people gambling at 1:30 a.m. on a Friday night, you know something's gone wrong. Real wrong. I'm Roland Pierce, 54 years old, and I've been running the Venetian Resort for 22 years. Built this place from a half-empty shell into an $85 million operation. Started when I was 32, fresh out of the Navy with nothing but a business plan that every bank in Nevada had used as a coaster. But I had vision, I had discipline, and most importantly, I had Bennett Ford's backing. The Pentagon Suite sits on the 50th floor, glass walls overlooking the entire strip. It's invitation only, $25,000 minimum buy-in, and has one simple rule posted in gold letters by the elevator. Privacy is absolute. What happens here never happened. We get senators, movie stars, tech millionaires up there, people who need to disappear for a few hours and make deals or mistakes without cameras. That's what I sell. Not just poker tables, but invisibility. And that night, some 24-year-old TikTok star was about to burn it all down for content. Her name was Anastasia Ford, Bennett Ford's granddaughter. Bennett was the guy who wrote the check that saved this place back in 2003. I was just another ex-Navy guy with big dreams and bigger debts, pitching casino owners who saw me as small time. Bennett was different. He made his fortune in shipping logistics, moving real cargo across real oceans, not shuffling digital money around like these new money tech bros. Build something that matters, Roland, he'd said that first day, lighting up one of those Cuban cigars that cost more than most people's car payments. Vegas has enough cheap thrills. Give them class. It was a handshake deal. No predatory interest rates, no demand for 51% equity, just his word and a request. Look out for my family if I'm not around to do it myself. That was the promise that haunted me. Bennett died 3 years ago. Heart attack at his desk, still working at 74. The funeral was bigger than some state events. Casino owners from Reno to Atlantic City paying their respects. And that's when little Anastasia changed from a quiet college kid into something else entirely. Before Bennett's death, she was just another rich kid, maybe a little spoiled, but nothing crazy. She'd come by the construction site when we were building this place, drink Cokes while we tested sound systems. I was like the cool uncle, the guy building the empire her grandfather was funding. After she inherited his $50 million trust fund, she transformed into this digital creature. 8 million TikTok followers, brand deals with energy drinks, constant stream of lifestyle content that was basically just her burning through money she never earned. She started coming to the casino more often. At first, I comped her tables out of respect for Bennett, told my staff to treat her like family. Looking back, that was my first mistake. The problem started small. Snapping fingers at dealers, complaining that our poker games were too boring for content. She wanted us to play trap music instead of our usual sophisticated jazz background. Then came the name dropping. I heard her at a charity gala last month talking to a group of real investors, people I knew and respected. Yeah, the Venetian basically runs itself, she was saying, swirling a martini like she was 35 instead of 24. I advised Roland on the creative direction. You know, he's great with the old school stuff, but he needs young energy. I'm basically a silent partner there. Silent partner. The girl who'd never worked a day, never risked a dime of her own money, never spent a sleepless night wondering if payroll would clear. That should have been when I cut her off. Should have revoked her access, had a conversation about respect and boundaries. But I kept thinking about Bennett, about the handshake, about the promise. Thought she was just grieving, just young, just needing time to understand what she'd inherited. I was dead wrong. The warning signs were there. She'd started bringing larger crews, making more noise, treating the place like her personal playground instead of the sophisticated establishment Bennett and I had built. The dealers complained about her behavior. The real high rollers started asking questions about that loud girl disrupting their games. But I kept giving her rope, kept honoring Bennett's memory instead of protecting his legacy. There's a difference between the two, and I was about to learn it the hard way. Friday night, 1:30 a.m., the Pentagon Suite was hosting one of our most exclusive private games. 6 players, all serious money. Senator from California, tech CEO, couple of Hollywood producers who preferred Vegas to LA for their real business, and Vincent Morrison, hedge fund manager who controls about $500 million like it's pocket change. These aren't people who want their conversations on social media. They're not looking for fame or followers. They're looking for privacy, discretion, and the kind of environment where they can speak freely without worrying about some 20-something with a phone turning their private moments into viral content. I was in my office reviewing quarterly reports. We were up 18% from last year, expansion plans for the parking structure moving ahead of schedule, when Sullivan Davis called me on the internal comm. "Boss, we got a situation developing in Pentagon." Sullivan's my head of security, former Marine who did 2 tours in Afghanistan before I hired him 8 years ago. When Sullivan uses the word situation, it's not some drunk tourist who can't find the bathroom. "Talk to me," I said, already grabbing my jacket and heading for the elevator. "It's the Ford girl. She's up there with her usual circus, but this time she's got her phone out. Full production setup, ring light, live stream, the works. She's filming the game." My blood turned to ice water. 22 years of building trust with people who could shut me down with one phone call, and this kid was torching it all for TikTok views. "Get up there now," I told Sullivan. "Shut it down." "Already tried, boss." She says she's got permission, that her grandfather's investment gives her broadcasting rights. Claims you told her the Pentagon suite was fair game for content creation. The elevator ride to the 50th floor felt like it took an hour. I could feel my Navy training kicking in, that cold, focused calm that comes when the situation has gone from bad to catastrophic and you need to think 3 moves ahead. The doors opened, and I could hear the chaos before I even stepped into the hallway. Music was blasting, not our usual sophisticated jazz background, but some bass-heavy rap that was probably shaking windows in the rooms below. Loud voices, laughter that sounded forced and artificial, the kind of noise that screams content creation instead of private business meeting. I pushed through the suite doors to find a disaster in progress. Anastasia was standing on one of the leather chairs next to the poker table, phone in one hand, champagne bottle in the other. Her ring light was positioned to blast directly into the players' faces, bright enough to read a newspaper by. She was wearing a gold-sequined dress that probably cost more than my security team's monthly salaries, shouting over the music at her phone screen. "What's up, Vegas? Your girl Anna is about to teach these old-timers how real players handle high-stakes poker. Look at these ancient billionaires trying to figure out what a TikTok is." Vincent Morrison sat frozen at the table, cards face down, one hand shielding his face from the ring light. This is a guy who controls $500 million in investments, who's been profiled in Fortune magazine, who values his privacy above almost everything else. He looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. The senator had already abandoned his chips and was standing by the window, probably texting his security detail. The 2 Hollywood producers were gathering their belongings, clearly planning their exit strategy. And this guy, Anastasia, spun the camera toward Morrison, zooming in on his uncomfortable expression, just folded pocket kings because he can't handle the pressure when someone's actually watching. These boomers are so used to hiding their business deals, they forget how to play when there's real transparency. Transparency. She was calling invasion of privacy transparency. I stood in the doorway, taking it all in. Sullivan appeared at my shoulder, waiting for orders. The smart play would have been to have security drag her out immediately. But I'd learned something in 22 years of running this place. Sometimes you have to let people finish destroying themselves before you can properly deal with them. "Not yet," I said quietly to Sullivan. "Let her keep talking." And she did. See, the problem with these old-school casino owners is they don't understand social media engagement. Like, hello, this is premium content. My followers are getting an exclusive look at how the Vegas elite really gamble. She took a swig from the champagne bottle, Dom Perignon 2008, probably $800 retail, and waved it around while still holding her phone. Some of the champagne splashed onto Morrison's sleeve. He flinched, but didn't move. "My grandfather basically built this place," she continued to her 8 million followers. "Like, I'm practically royalty here. The owner is probably some crusty old guy who doesn't even know what Instagram is. But don't worry, I'm modernizing this whole operation, bringing it into the 21st century. Crusty old guy. The man whose handshake deal had built her inheritance was apparently just some relic who needed her to drag him into modernity. You know what's crazy? She was really warming up now, drunk on champagne and attention. These dinosaurs still think privacy matters in business. Like, guys, we live in the age of transparency. Everything should be public. People want to see how their money really moves. That's when I realized she fundamentally misunderstood what we sold here. She thought we were just another casino with fancy decorations. She had no idea that our real product was discretion, trust, the ability to guarantee that certain conversations would never see daylight. Morrison finally stood up, carefully avoiding looking at the camera. He nodded to me, a tiny gesture, but one that said he understood I wasn't responsible for this circus, and walked toward the private elevator that leads directly to the parking garage. 20 years of business relationship, millions in gambling revenue, gone in under 10 minutes. The senator followed, then the producers. Within 5 minutes, the most exclusive poker game in Las Vegas had become a one-woman TikTok show. Oh no, Anastasia laughed as the last player left. Looks like these old guys can't handle a little social media presence. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Vegas needs young blood, fresh energy. She finally noticed me standing in the doorway. The phone camera swiveled in my direction. Oh, perfect. Hey everyone, I think this might be the owner. Sir, hi, I'm Anastasia Ford. Bennett Ford's granddaughter? Yeah, so I'm doing this amazing collaboration with the casino tonight, showing my followers how the Vegas elite really operates. This content is already trending. I looked at her phone screen. The viewer count was climbing. 47,000 people watching live. Comments flying past, too fast to read. 47,000 witnesses to the destruction of everything Bennett and I had built. Miss Ford, I said, my voice calm and measured, you need to end the stream and put the phone away. She tilted her head like I'd asked her to solve calculus. Excuse me? Do you know who my grandfather was? He's literally the reason you have a job. This building exists because of Ford family money. Your grandfather was a wise man who understood the value of discretion. You're not him. The smile melted off her face. What did you just say to me? I said you're not your grandfather. Bennett built relationships. You just exploit them. She stepped down from the chair, getting close enough that I could smell the alcohol on her breath. The camera was still recording, still broadcasting to those 47,000 viewers. Listen, old man, I don't know who you think you are, but I've got millions of followers watching this. Do you really want to mess with me on live stream? I looked at that phone, then back at her face. 22 years of careful relationship building, and she was asking if I wanted to mess with her on live stream. The irony was almost funny. Sullivan, I said, not taking my eyes off Anastasia. How many privacy violations are we looking at here? Sullivan stepped forward, his marine bearing making the room feel smaller. Federal level? Recording without consent in a private gaming facility, revealing identities of individuals engaged in confidential business activities. He counted on his fingers. Looking at about 12 to 15 felony charges if Senator Williams decides to press. Mr. Morrison's legal team is probably already drafting papers. Her face went pale under the ring light. You can't. These are just TikToks. It's social media. It's not illegal to film in public. This isn't public, I said calmly. When you enter this suite, you sign a waiver. Non-disclosure agreement, no recording, no photography, federal penalties for violation. You signed it downstairs an hour ago. I watched her process this. For the first time since I'd known her, she seemed to realize she wasn't in her usual environment of yes men and paid assistants. But my grandfather, your grandfather respected privacy. Your grandfather understood business. Your grandfather built trust. You just violated all three. The live stream was still running. Comments were flying past, mostly people asking who the angry old guy was, some recognizing this as the Venetian. A few were already screen recording, probably planning to post clips later. You know what your real problem is? She was getting angry now, the alcohol and adrenaline making her reckless. You're stuck in the past. This is 2024, not 1950. People want transparency. They want access. They want to see how the other half lives. They want entertainment, I corrected. You're giving them a freak show. She laughed loud and harsh. A freak show? I'm giving them reality. These rich old guys hiding in their private clubs, making deals that affect everyone while pretending they're just playing cards. At least I'm honest about what I'm doing. That's when I understood the real problem. She genuinely believed she was providing some kind of public service. In her mind, she was the hero exposing corruption, not the villain destroying carefully built relationships. Anastasia, I said, my voice softer now, your grandfather spent 40 years building trust in this industry. He understood that some conversations need to happen without cameras. That's not corruption. That's how business works. That's how old business worked, she shot back. Everything should be transparent now. Everything should be public. Social media changed the rules. I looked at the phone screen. Viewer count was climbing, 73,000 now. More witnesses to this disaster. Sullivan, I said, call Victoria Pearson legal. Tell her to initiate a review of the Bennett Ford Trust. Anastasia's expression changed instantly. What kind of review? The moral turpitude clause. Something your grandfather insisted on to protect the family name. She set her phone down for the first time, though the stream kept running. What's a moral turpitude clause? It's what your grandfather built into your trust fund to keep you from bringing disgrace to the Ford legacy. Engaging in activities that damage the family reputation triggers a comprehensive review of your monthly stipend. I watched her face as the implications hit her. The trust fund wasn't just money, it was her entire lifestyle. The apartment, the cars, the designer clothes, the crew of hangers-on who followed her around. Without it, she was just another unemployed college dropout with a phone. You wouldn't, she whispered. I'm not doing anything. You did it yourself when you decided to broadcast private conversations for entertainment. Her phone was buzzing constantly now. Notifications, comments, probably her manager trying to figure out what was happening. The viewer count hit 89,000. This isn't over, she said, but her voice had lost its earlier confidence. Actually, it is. I nodded to Sullivan. Miss Ford needs to be escorted out. She's permanently banned from all Nevada gaming properties. I'll make the necessary calls. That's when she fully realized what was happening. In Vegas, reputation travels fast. When word gets out that you violated privacy at one casino, every establishment from here to Atlantic City knows about it within 24 hours. The casino industry is smaller than people think, and trust is everything. Sullivan stepped forward. Miss, I need you to come with me. Wait, she grabbed her phone. My followers, I need to explain what happened. I need to tell them this is discrimination, that you're trying to silence me because I'm exposing the truth. Your followers are about to watch you get banned from Las Vegas, I said. Might want to think about your brand strategy. She started backing toward the window, phone held up like a shield. You can't do this. I'm Bennett Ford's granddaughter. I have rights. You have the right to remain silent, Sullivan said, moving closer. Might want to exercise it. The live stream was chaos now. Comments flooding in asking what was happening, why security was there, whether this was real or staged content. Some viewers were already clipping the confrontation, probably uploading it to other platforms. This is going viral, she said desperately. You're making a mistake. When this blows up, everyone's going to see how you treat people. I walked over and picked up her phone, looking directly into the camera. 96,000 people were watching. Ladies and gentlemen, I said calmly, this establishment takes patron privacy seriously. When someone violates that trust, there are consequences. The stream is ending now. I ended the broadcast. The sudden silence was deafening. No music, no comments, no notification sounds. Just the hum of the air conditioning and Anastasia's ragged breathing. You just destroyed my career, she said quietly. No, I replied. You did that yourself. I just stopped you from destroying anyone else's. Sullivan took her arm, not roughly, but with the kind of professional firmness that suggested resistance would be pointless. Miss Ford, let's go. As they walked toward the elevator, she turned back one last time. My grandfather built this place. Your grandfather built relationships, I said. You just burned them. The elevator doors closed with a soft chime. I stood alone in the Pentagon suite looking out at the strip through the floor-to-ceiling windows. 22 years of work, and it had almost come apart in one night because I'd honored the wrong promise. The aftermath moved faster than I expected. By Saturday morning, clips of the confrontation were everywhere. Someone had screen recorded the live stream before I ended it, and now casino owner destroys entitled influencer was trending on every platform. The comments were split between people calling me a boomer power tripper and others praising me for putting social media narcissists in their place. I didn't care about the online noise, I cared about the phone calls. Vincent Morrison called first. Roland, that was the most expensive $15,000 I ever lost at poker, he said. Morrison had been down about $15,000 when the game imploded, but watching you handle that situation was worth every penny. Count me in for the next private game. Senator Williams called an hour later. Heard you dealt with a security breach last night. Professional handling, Roland. Vegas needs more operators who understand discretion. By Sunday, 3 new high-roller clients had reached out specifically because they'd heard about our enhanced privacy protocols. Word travels fast in the right circles. But the real work was happening behind the scenes. Victoria Pierce, my legal counsel, had been busy all weekend. Monday morning, she walked into my office with a thick folder and the kind of smile that meant good news for me and bad news for someone else. "Trust fund review is complete," she said, setting the folder on my desk. The Ford family board voted unanimously to activate the moral turpitude clause. I opened the folder. Legal documents, bank statements, a detailed timeline of Anastasia's social media activities over the past year. Victoria had been thorough. How bad is it for her? Monthly stipend suspended indefinitely, access to the principal blocked until she demonstrates mature judgment and respect for family values. Could be years, I thought, about Bennett. Wondered if this was what he'd really intended when he built those safeguards into the trust. Maybe he'd seen something in his granddaughter that the rest of us missed. What about her social media career? Victoria's smile got wider. That's the interesting part. Turns out influencer contracts have morality clauses too. Energy drink deals, fashion brands, sponsored content, they all pulled out over the weekend. Nobody wants to be associated with federal privacy violations. She handed me a printout. Her follower count dropped from 8 million to 4.2 million in 72 hours. Comment sections are toxic. Brand deals worth about $2.3 million annually, gone. I walked over to the window looking out at the strip. It was Monday afternoon, quiet before the evening rush. In a few hours, the Pentagon suite would host another private game. Different players, same rules, same respect for what we built here. "There's something else," Victoria said. "She's been trying to contact you." She handed me a stack of messages, emails, texts, even a handwritten letter delivered by courier. I glanced at the first email. "Mr. Pierce, I wanted to apologize for Friday night. I was wrong about everything. Could we please meet to discuss how I might make amends?" "How many of these?" 14 so far. They're getting more desperate. I looked at the handwritten letter. The penmanship was shaky, probably written while emotional. The tone was different from her usual confidence, uncertain, almost pleading. I thought about the 16-year-old kid who used to visit Bennett during construction, drinking sodas and asking endless questions about how business really worked. Somewhere inside this train wreck was still that curious girl. But some lessons you have to learn the hard way. "File them," I said, handing the stack back to Victoria. "Don't respond." She's also retained a lawyer. Making noise about suing for discrimination, claiming you targeted her because of her age and social media presence. I laughed. Good luck proving discrimination when we have 96,000 witnesses to what actually happened. That's what her lawyer figured out too. Case got dropped this morning. The intercom buzzed. Sullivan's voice. "Boss, you've got a visitor downstairs. Anastasia Ford. Says she wants to apologize in person." I looked at Victoria. She shrugged. "Your call." I thought about it for a long moment. Part of me was curious to hear what she'd say now that the consequences were real. But a bigger part remembered what Bennett used to tell me about business. Never let emotion override judgment, Roland. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Anastasia had shown me who she was on Friday night. Everything since then was just damage control. "Tell her I'm not available," I said into the intercom. "And Sullivan, update security. She's not to be admitted to the property again." Victoria gathered her papers. "What if she keeps trying to contact you?" "She won't," I said. "Trust fund kids don't fight battles they can't win. She'll move on to the next opportunity, the next scandal, the next chance to be relevant." After Victoria left, I sat alone in my office thinking about promises and legacies. I'd promised Bennett I'd look out for his granddaughter. For 3 years, I thought that meant protecting her, enabling her, giving her chances she hadn't earned. But maybe looking out for someone means teaching them that actions have consequences. Maybe the greatest gift you can give a spoiled child is the chance to learn what loss feels like. Bennett built something that lasted. He understood that reputation takes decades to build and seconds to destroy. He knew that trust is the only currency that really matters in this business. Anastasia never learned those lessons. She thought fame and followers were the same as respect. She confused attention with accomplishment, noise with influence. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. "This isn't over. You destroyed my life for no reason. You'll regret this." I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. The slot machine started humming downstairs as the evening crowd filtered in. The sound of money flowing, relationships building, trust earning interest in the accounts that really matter. I walked back to the window. The Strip was lighting up, neon bleeding into the desert sky. Somewhere out there, Anastasia Ford was probably planning her next move, her comeback story, her redemption arc. But not here. Not in my house, not with my guests. Bennett always said Vegas was a city of second chances, but he also taught me that some people need to lose everything before they're ready for that chance. I hoped she'd learn. I hoped she'd grow up, but I wasn't going to wait around to find out.